he did an outstanding job. I've got this all on video, and for next year,
and the cool
for the
thing is,
10th anniversary of that,
if you listen to the commentary track on the UHF, Al makes reference to it. He doesn't mention us or the convention by name, but we were the only people who had done it up to that point in time. So when he's talking about it, he's talking about us.
Yeah.
Cool.
If they were heard at Alcon too.
Yeah, they're playing in the background the comment tracks at Alcon, and we're like, wait, what did he just say? And he mentioned Dr. William Dawson. So, but anyways, that's Dementia 2000, which is next year. Dementia 2001.
We're going to have a 3, but we realized
we tried for Dementia 03, and we had a hotel set up. Well, no, first we were going to be a part of Marcon, and then they screwed us over. And then we're like, quickly, we switched our date from early spring to late October, and then we just couldn't get enough legs by that time. We're like,
yeah. This is kind of a side tangent to Dementia Radio.
It is.
It sort of ties in. Basically, I had been, after starting to perform at conventions in when did I officially started performing at conventions in '94. It started becoming a more regular thing by about '96, '97. And I really hadn't been familiar with the established filk world that was there and all that stuff. And the only thing that I knew all these other funny music people from Dr. Demento and stuff, and I wanted to get more of them performing at these conventions with me. So I was trying to convince conventions that I was going to regularly to help me bring people in, and I didn't have a lot of success until I went to MarsCon. Where
MarsCon or Marcon?
MarsCon.
Okay.
With an S. MarsCon in the Twin Cities, because they had heard about me. They wanted to book me to be a guest of honor in 2004 when they were going to have Dr. Demento there as well. And I said, and this was like a year and a half out. And I'm like, oh, well, can I perform at MarsCon 2003? And they're like, oh, well, we already have all our guests lined up. And I'm like, well, can't you just give me like a little side room to perform, and it'll be kind of a sneak preview for the following year when I come back? And they're like, oh, sure, that'd be great. So I showed up, on my own. They hadn't heard of me at all. I performed in their karaoke room. They gave me like a 1-hour set to do, and the room was packed, and they just totally loved me. It was like such a cool experience after years of going to all these cons where I had to struggle to convince people to give me a chance. Like, these people welcomed me with open arms, and were they laughed and they were supportive, and it was so cool. And then I came back the following year. Dr. Demento was there. Chubox and Eric Coleman were there, and that was the beginning of this, what has grown to become officially the Dementia track at MarsCon. So, each year I kept getting more and more acts involved, and now it's built up to this. It's become the thing that I always wanted it to be. A convention where people who do funny music, whether it falls into the category of filk or not, get to have a venue where they can show up, and there's a stage, and there's a good sound system, and there's an audience, and we can just do a whole weekend of awesome shows. So, and Con the Cob obviously is doing that as well, and that makes me very happy, because I do want there to be more than just one convention where this happens at. So, and PenguinCon certainly has a strong history of supporting that as well. Jim Kitty runs the track out there.
I've been trying to do stuff. Some of the people in the convention world in upstate New York trying to do the same thing.
Mostly at PenguinCon is because I was on the ComCon from day one, and I'm like, we need this, and not so much of the filk. Filk's okay, just keep it light.
I thought with someone yesterday who was saying, we need filk doesn't like Dementia.
Well, it depends on who you're talking to, essentially.
But she's from Alabama, so she doesn't understand.
So,
obviously,
so at many of these conventions where things are going, Dementia Radio folks obviously show up. They throw room parties. They cast it over the web. We have wonderful people who record it for us so that we can put out the fundraiser CDs for MarsCon and all that stuff. So it all kind of ties in hand in hand. I mentioned this on a recent episode of the Funny Music Podcast, that now that I live in the Chicagoland area for the first time officially, I've been kind of scouting around to try to find a venue, not for a convention necessarily, but for a place where we could have, basically, I was thinking of calling it Funk Fest, but I don't know. We'll figure out the name later, but basically,
the Odd Fest is available.
That point was brought up to me. It's like, well, Devo has the oddfest.com. We could just be Oddfest Chicago or something. So, just so that we can, have a place to go, do a whole bunch of series of shows, because, You know, I'm in Chicago, the Gospels are in Chicago. It's a decent city for people to drive or fly into pretty cheaply. So, you know, we'll see what happens. Now that the wedding's over, I'm allowed to do projects again.
Yay! Now that the baby's born, I can do projects again.
Yay!
Not my baby, by the way. We do refer to her as my wife.
Secondary husband.
Yeah.
In 2002 or whatever, didn't we do Gen Con also?
That was August of '01.
Oh, the Gen Con.
Okay, and by the way, let me say something. We can say the name Tony Goldbarth and mention the Looney Bin, all right? It was part of the history, and it was a damn good show.
Yeah.
So let's just be honest, you know. So, but anyway, that night I did a show at Gen Con, and I didn't have a new album or all the new material. So I'm like, I need to get some help. So I asked Tony and Chris and Bill. Were you just coming out to come out, or
yeah?
Okay, so basically,
I used to follow you around, but there wasn't much to do.
So you got on stage, you dressed as a Klingon for me, and, for one of our bits, and Keterman of Insanity on Airwaves was there. So, so basically that night we were all at the same hotel, and you had a recorder, and we're like, let's just record a bunch of bumper IDs, and we just got so freaking silly recording stupid bumpers for like all of our different shows and for Dementia Radio in general. And
that was a legendary night.
It was a laugh fest that turned into a scream fest. And I should add, there was no chemical enhancement.
No.
All completely organic Dementia.
I remember, because at the time, Oh Brother Where Art Thou had just come out, so you start playing that,
I have a show on Dementia Radio.
Called the Cream Cheese Library.
It's called the Cream Cheese Library.
So, oh god, that was legendary and epic and awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We found out that we could pay to have Bill locked up.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
That was next year though.
I think it was the same year.
No, same year. I was only there 1 year.
Yeah, because that was the year that was when I debuted the Bender copy. So the pictures are of him as a Klingon and me as Bender in the Klingon jail.
We had to walk you around the
Or say, Hender's in jail here. Here's another 20. Keep him in there another 10
lock
minutes.
up Bill, they were handing money out.
All right.
So, which came first? Dementia Radio or the standardization of Pound Dementia?
Pound Sign Dementia came first. Back in the day, a bunch of us would chat on Pound Sign Weird Al. And I don't want to get into the politics too much, but because of some stuff that happened there, it essentially broke into 4 different channels. One of them was Pound Sign Dementia, and there was 2 others on other networks called Pound Sign Weird Al. So I used to have my script set up to log into 4 different IRC servers to talk to all my friends who all used to be on one IRC channel. But basically the reason we split off Dementia from Weird Al is because they didn't want us talking about streaming radio. So this was just between the time when Warp was almost off the air forever and Dementia Radio started. So a bunch of us would go over there and talk about general dementia because they didn't like that in the Weird Al channel. I don't know why. And then it was just, hey, we already have.
The reality is there's a certain percentage of people, there are people in this world who are very hardcore fans of Weird Al Yankovic who have absolutely no interest in any other kind of funny music besides Weird Al Yankovic.
Yes.
And it's just kind of,
It goes beyond the music.
I just, it annoys me, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
It caused a lot of problems at Dementia 2001 for sure.
We have no ill will against Al.
No, it may not be Al. It's just some of his fans are a little too focused on just Al. We call them Al only fans. But anyways, so when we came up with Dementia Radio, or when I came up with, hey, let's do this radio station, I already have Pound Sign Dementia, I have the land of Dementia.com, we'll call it Dementia Radio, and then we can all hang out on Pound Sign Dementia.
What I'm trying to figure out is, who's been listening to station longest who wasn't a DJ near the beginning? Because I started listening in 2001.
Sue's been listening since day 1, I think.
Okay,
Yeah, Chris
okay.
and I were the daytime moderators. I've never been a DJ.
Yeah. So yeah, Susan used to hang out the channel all the time.
I can't get into it now.
Yeah.
That's why I'm
Oh, really?
I've always
at the time, I was on another ISC network and had problems running two works at the same time. Didn't know at the time.
One work could split up.
I didn't know that
Yeah.
at the time. So I would be listening while chatting in another group that I was extremely active in until.
Yeah.
And then I disappeared for about 9 months because of my move.
Right.
And I come back and everyone goes, who the hell is? I'm going, I've been a listener for the last
Yeah.
2.5 years. I go and gone.
Oh, what was funny is when Chris had to go away, he pretty much went away hardcore for several years. So when a couple years ago when we brought you back, we had like, this is Chris Mazzalesta. He's awesome. He wrote the theme song. It's cool. And now everyone knows it. So.
Oh my God, this guy is great. That's cool to do.
And we gave back the first of the Mars concert.
Yeah, it's because me and Steph were doing all the stuff, getting the Dementia track started at MarsCon, and things were going good. And I'm like, you know what this needs? This needs Chris Mazzalesta of Power Salad. We need to start pestering him incessantly until he shows up.
We said the same thing in Circus So What.